welcome back to Nature News. I'm Alice Ford, and today we're going to start off with some stories of success. Now, the reefs around Maiden Island in the Caribbean were the subject of what the Society for Ecological Restoration refers to as the world's largest total marine ecosystem restoration. This included both coral reef and mangrove habitats. Part of the reef had actually been destroyed by Hurricane Luis in 1995, and the reef had also been in decline from years of urbanization and industrialization. This restoration project lasted over the course of a few years and used thousands of reef balls, which are an artificial reef module to restore coral reefs. They were able to attach 5,000 new coral colonies consisting of more than 30 species, and they brought health back to this reef after years of decline. Another big announcement this week came out of China, where they announced that giant pandas have now recovered enough that they will be removed from the endangered species list. Now, this is after decades of hard work by both zoos and breeding programs throughout China and across the world, and is really exciting for wildlife news. If you'd like to learn more about how we can all make changes in our lives to better protect the environment, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right now and turn on those bell notifications, and don't forget to share this video with a friend. If you live on the eastern coast of the United States and have a bird feeder, you're going to want to pay attention to this news. In late May, wildlife rehabilitation experts in Washington, D.C. began receiving reports of sick and dead songbirds, mainly blue jays, starling, and grackles, but also robins, cardinals, and others. This phenomenon has since spread through 10 states, including West Virginia, Ohio, Maryland, and Delaware, as well as Pennsylvania. Now, wildlife officials are asking people to take down bird feeders and remove bird baths in an attempt to potentially stop the spread of this mysterious illness. And experts are also encouraging the public to follow these precautionary measures until more is known. Cease feeding birds and providing water and bird baths. You're going to want to clean feeders and bird baths with a 10% bleach solution, as well as avoid handling any dead or injured wild birds. Wear disposable gloves if you need to do that, and make sure you keep your pets away from any dead or injured animals as well. If you are disposing of dead birds, make sure to put them in a sealable bag and within your household trash. This will prevent the spread of further disease to any other animals. If you do see dead or injured birds in your area, I've left a link in the description where you can report these instances as well. Residents in New Jersey will soon be getting some more wind power in yet another climate win. The New Jersey Board of Public Utilities voted unanimously to approve a second massive offshore wind project. This is according to the Philadelphia Inquirer. Now, this project will allow two developers to build 2,600 megawatts of wind power off the Jersey shore. This is actually enough to power more than 1 million homes. Have any of you ever been on a cruise? I have many years ago, and I loved all the destinations that I visited, but I think that the cruise industry could do a lot more when it comes to environmental responsibility. Now, there's been a battle brewing over the last several years on the impact of mega cruise ships on small communities, harbors, and oceans. Many of the most popular cruise ship ports also have extremely fragile ecosystems, and cities most often than not have taken profit over the protection of these ecosystems. But the city of Venice in Italy has finally changed their mind. I'm sure having no cruise ships over the last 18 months has given them a different perspective on what the Venice Canal looks like. And recently, UNESCO also threatened to take the Venetian Lagoon off the World Heritage Site list and onto the endangered list, which spurred the government into action. So starting August 1st, the government has put a ban on all large cruise vessels from entering the Venetian Lagoon. The Venetian Lagoon is fragile and in need of a break from over-tourism. So finally, you'll be able to take a picture of the Piazza San Marco without a giant ship behind it. I'm hoping that a lot of the most popular cruise ship destinations start making some sort of restrictions. There was a mega ship that is supposed to be going into Alaska for the first time next year, and it will be allowed to go inside the Inside Passage. There's already been instances over the last couple of years where mega ships have injured and killed whales and other marine life. So I really think it's important that we start creating some sort of regulations against the size and scope of the amount of passengers and also the waste that these cruise ships can dump into the ocean. In other parts of the world, the ocean still needs a lot more help from a rising and devastating algae called red tide. This sucks the oxygen out of the water and it kills marine life. And over in Tampa Bay, there was just another disastrous red tide that left 15 tons of dead fish. Now, red tide is a form of harmful algae bloom. And the reason we've been seeing more and more of them over the last few years is a combination of both climate change, which warms the seas, and runoff from agriculture and industrial pollution. Now, it's unclear why this red tide in Tampa is so severe, but some suspect it might be exacerbated from 215 million of nitrogen-rich wastewater that made its way into the Tampa Bay earlier this year from an old fertilizer plant. Now, red tide is created when algae feed on phosphorus and nitrogen. This in turn depletes the oxygen that fish and other marine life need to survive, and that's why we have so many fish die-offs in these areas. Now, this isn't just a problem in our oceans, but in our lakes, in our rivers, and in our other bodies of water. As temperatures go up and rainfalls go down, water bodies become more stagnant, they become warmer, and this is a perfect place for algae blooms to take over. Now, they're becoming one of the ocean's most difficult problems to stop because they're spurred on by climate change and pollution, and there's really no way for us to fix them as of right now. And if you're thinking that this sounds familiar and you actually live on the West Coast, well, you're correct, because Los Angeles actually just had its own wastewater spill, closing down the beaches for miles last week. This was after a facility that treats human waste had an error that led to the dumping of more than 17 million gallons of untreated human waste into the ocean. All right, we're heading back to the East Coast because if you live over there, you might have been seeing a lot of cicadas over the last few months. And while you may not be loving them, our canine friends certainly are. Now, birds and squirrels also love these crunchy little critters. And with so many extra things to eat this year, there will certainly be a baby boom. If you haven't tried cicadas yet, well, I don't blame you, but they are one of the most environmentally friendly sources of protein. If you're in the EU, there is one place cicadas won't be going, and that's into your single-use plastic containers. Because as of July 3rd, all of these types of takeout containers for leftovers and some of their single-use plastic is banned. Plastic cotton buds, cutlery, plates, straws, stirrers, balloon sticks, and polystyrene drink and food vessels will not be sold as of last week. Also getting banned are the OXO degradable plastic bags that are marketed as biodegradable but actually break down into harmful microplastics that long remain in the environment. These disposable plastics make up around 70% of marine litter in Europe. So cafes and restaurants will now be forced to stock cups and straws made of bamboo, cellulose, or other actually biodegradable materials. Single-use plastic bottles, however, are not part of this ban, but the EU has enacted a new goal to have 90% of this type of bottle recycled by 2029. Now, the hope here is that within the next 10 years, they can create a circular economy where all of the remaining types of plastic out there will be either reused or recycled and not thrown away. This summer has been unseasonably warm, and in many places that weren't expecting it as well. So warm, sadly, that on the shores of Vancouver in Canada, the mollusks have literally baked inside their shells. Now, these are some of the side effects of climate change that we talked about decades ago. Harley, who's a marine biologist at the University of British Columbia, roughly estimates that about 1 billion animals died within the Salish, that's a tongue twister, guys. Salish Sea off the coast of Vancouver during the heat wave. But his team is still gathering data, and whatever the actual number is, it's massive. Mollusks actually act like filters for the ocean shoreline, filtering out small particles and keeping shorelines clean. The deaths of so many of these shoreline keepers will surely have a great impact on the ecosystem, and it's not going to be a good one. Since we're talking about our oceans, let me remind you that if you're hitting the beach this summer, make sure you check the labels on your sunscreen and your face lotions. Now, many of the things we put on our bodies, face products, body lotions, etc., have harmful chemicals, especially sunscreen. Now, if it starts with an oxybenzoin or an oxy something, it's not natural and should not be worn on your skin, and definitely not to the beach. So anything that you put on your body can easily end up in the ocean. So please make sure if you're going to a beach or even a pool to wear Reef safe sunscreen. And also think about switching to a completely non-toxic skincare routine as well. I've actually put a link in the description for some of my favorite recommendations. You know, you'd be surprised how easily turtles and fish can become sick or even die from the toxins in the sunscreen that we use. With so many humans going into oceans and wearing these toxic chemicals, it can have a real devastating effect on the ocean. Let's end today with another reminder of how dangerous pesticides are. Last Monday, a class action lawsuit was filed against Dow Chemical and its successor companies over a widely used bug killer that has been linked to brain damage in children. It's called chloropyrifos, and it's an approved pesticide that's been used on more than 80 crops, including oranges, berries, grapes, soybeans, bananas, and walnuts. The pesticide was actually banned last year for sale in the state of California, but many other states still allow its use. Now, this lawsuit represents community members in California, and it claims that at least 100,000 homes in the nation's largest agricultural state may need to actually dispose of their belongings because they're contaminated with this pesticide. Now, it's been found in carpeting, upholstery, and even children's teddy bears inside people's homes. And between 1974 and 2017, more than 61 million pounds of pesticide were applied in just 4 counties in California. Let's just say that for all the great things Dow Chemical and DuPont have made over the years, they've also poisoned our land and led to the deaths of thousands of people here in the United States and all around the world. Now, most of the people and children affected by this pesticide are immigrants and low-wage employees working in fields and packing plants where they pass the pesticide on to their children that they live with, or even ones that they're carrying in their womb. Pesticides are devastating, not only to the people that use them, but to all of us that eat the food that these pesticides have been sprayed on. So this is just another reminder to eat organic, to make sure you wash your vegetables and fruit, and to make sure you know where things are coming from. It's always better to support your local farms and never be afraid to ask what they're using for pest management. Yes, pesticides are great for increasing yields and protecting the crop from bugs, but they also have these horrible side effects in, the community spread that they create from the chemicals. On that note, I'm going to end today's major news with another positive story out of the Amazon. A new program actually aims in fighting deforestation has actually equipped Indigenous leaders with smartphones and satellite data. Now, this has allowed the government to send deforestation alerts to Indigenous communities where they're actually able to drive out illegal loggers. And they found that in the first year, deforestation actually dropped by 52% and then 21% the following year from these technological advances. And it's things like this that are helping save the planet. Now, deforestation is at an all-time high, sadly, in the Brazilian Amazon this year, thanks to poor leadership, but other places are making huge strides. So let's remember, even though there's a lot of doom and gloom when we talk about the environment, there are actually thousands of people out there fighting every day to fix the mistakes we've made as humans and to make this planet a better place. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Nature News. Make sure you hit subscribe, turn on those notifications, and share this video with a friend. As always, I am here to answer any questions that you guys have, so feel free to leave a comment down below as well, and I will see you in the next one.